So in class we've been talking about notice and note, and this is a great way to use a technique to improve your analysis of fiction, but also nonfiction as well. There are 6 different ways that we could use signposts to remind us to stop and look for these things in order to create and improve analysis. So one of the 6 signposts include contrasts and contradictions, an aha moment, tough questions, words of the wiser again and again, and memory moment. Again, these are signposts, so when we see these things, the first thing that we should do is stop and notice these things, write them down, perchance, and then from there, make some sort of analytical leap. Contrast and contradictions incorporate sharp contrast between what we expect the narrator or character to do and what they actually do. So it's a break from the well-established pattern that we see from a narrator or a character. And usually this is a clue from the author that we should do something. We should take note of this. It's a significant moment and that we need to kind of comment on it and analyze it. An aha moment is when a character realizes something. It's somewhat of an epiphany. There's a lot of different phrases usually express suddenness like this. Suddenly I understood, it came to me in a flash, in an instant I knew. All these are great signposts that there is a realization taking place. And a great way to analyze this, to note it, would be to whether you agree or disagree with the epiphany that a character is making. You don't necessarily have to agree with them, but just to be passive in the reading process isn't always a good idea. And it enriches your analysis, but also leads to great conversations. Tough questions usually arise in a lot of nonfiction as well as fiction. And these are when characters or narrators reveal to us certain questions that they may have regarding whatever the topic might be. And these are usually embedded within the text. It may come after the aha moment where they're still leading towards analysis. So some of the different signposts could be, what could I possibly do to you? I could imagine how I could cope with, how could I ever understand why she or he, and never had I been so confused about. These are just some examples of different questions. Words of the wiser is usually when some sort of sage-like character. Great examples of a sage character who imparts wisdom on the narrator or a character could be Dumbledore from Harry Potter, Gandalf from Lord of the Rings, Obi-Wan Kenobi from Star Wars, but they don't have to be old men with beards. They can be really anyone, maybe even an owl with a hat on, just as an example. But we see a lot of this happening. We see it in Greek myths a lot, where a god will come down and tell the hero what to do. But usually when there's this sage-like character, or what could be called words of the wiser, this is a significant point in the book that we need to analyze. Whatever questions they leave the narrator with, or challenges, or wisdom that they might leave, these are significant points for us to take a look at, to analyze, to raise questions regarding the significance of the moment, why a character like this might take interest in the main character, and also what the message is and what we're supposed to learn from that message. Again and again is also one of my favorites because it regards symbolism, allegory, and metaphor, some of my favorite poetic devices. And what usually happens is a character or an author will refer to these symbols, metaphors, or allegories again and again. So it's not necessarily the first time that the symbol appears that we'll totally get it, but maybe it's the 3rd or 4th time. So it's a reoccurring image that the author's putting into the novel or poem, or even symbolism or metaphor and allegory also appear in a lot of non-fiction as well. What are we supposed to take away from this? Why would an author use this right here? And what is the significance of it? And how does it relate to our own personal lives? Those are really intriguing questions to notice and note. Memory moments are usually flashback scenes where the main story is kind of interrupted by by a look at the history of the character or narrator to give you some sort of backstory. Now, the reason that the author puts that backstory in is because to make meaning of the entire text. So why would an author do that? What's the significance of that moment playing into the rest of the book? Those are just some other questions that we could use as a signpost to stop and think about what we're reading a little bit more in depth. So that is all of the different signposts that we're going to be looking at. Again, those are the memory moment, again and again, words of the wiser, tough questions, aha moment, contrasting contradictions. So those are the things that we're going to be looking for in the articles that we will be reading.